Ever get that like, I don't know, kind of like brain dead feeling after being online too long? Just like consuming, and you don't even really like get anything out of it.
Yeah.
Well, today we're going to deep dive into this article called UX Design Against Digital Brain Rot.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and it really digs into this whole idea that like too much digital content can just leave us feeling like mentally, I don't know, kind of drained and sluggish.
It's interesting, because the article doesn't just dismiss this feeling as like, whatever. It actually points to research that shows that too much engagement with certain types of digital content, it can really have an impact on our cognitive abilities.
Yeah, it's almost like we're filling up on junk food, right?
Yeah.
Instead of actually like nourishing our minds, like when you just binge on something sweet and you're like, oh, it's so satisfying, but then you just feel, sluggish and gross afterward.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. And just like junk food can like negatively impact our physical health, this article argues that all this digital consumption can lead to, well, they call it brain rot.
Brain rot.
Wow. And they talk about things like reduced attention spans and higher stress levels and even like trouble focusing on stuff that requires, more brain power.
Yeah, and what's crazy is that like a lot of the platforms that we use every day, they're like intentionally designed to keep us hooked, even if it's not really good for us.
It's true. Think about endless scrolling, right? Or autoplay. They're great for engagement, but they also make it so easy to just lose track of time and kind of fall into this like mindless consumption pattern.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're like, wait, I just spent an hour doing what?
Totally, yeah. Like, where'd the time go? So if it's the design of these platforms that's kind of contributing to this feeling of brain rot, can we use design to, fight back against it?
Oh, absolutely. And that's what makes the article so interesting. It actually offers some like UX strategies that designers can use to make digital experiences that are both engaging but also mentally sustainable.
Okay, I like that. Mentally sustainable.
Right. One of the key ideas is prioritizing meaningful engagement over, just endless consumption.
That sounds promising, but like, how do we actually, design for that?
Well, one way is to introduce what they call endpoints into the user experience.
With endpoints.
Yeah, so instead of that infinite scroll that just keeps going and going, you might like hit a gentle nudge to take a break.
Oh, okay. So like a little message that pops up after you've been scrolling for a while saying something like, hey, you've been scrolling for a while. Maybe it's time to take a break.
Exactly. Or even something as simple as like a feature that just tracks and shows you your usage time. Sometimes just being aware of how much time we're spending can be enough to make us think twice.
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes I catch myself scrolling and like, whoa, how long have I been doing this?
Another thing they talk about is building friction into the design.
Friction. Wait, isn't that a bad thing?
Well, not necessarily. It's not about making things difficult, but more about like introducing these subtle pauses, moments for reconsideration.
So not like an obstacle, but more like a speed bump. Like, hold on, do I really want to keep going?
Exactly. Like imagine having to click a continue button after scrolling for a bit. It's a way to like encourage you to be more intentional. Do you want to keep scrolling or do you want to do something else?
I see. So it sounds like a lot of these strategies are about helping people regain control of their, digital consumption.
You got it. And that leads us to another big thing in UX design. Reducing cognitive load.
Okay, break that down for me. What is cognitive load?
Think of it like this. Every time you're online, you're bombarded with information and choices and, all these stimuli. Click this, read that, watch this, answer that notification. It's a constant stream of decisions.
Oh, yeah. Even choosing what to watch on Netflix can feel like a huge decision sometimes.
And all that mental processing, it takes effort, right? And it can create this mental fatigue.
For sure.
And the article says good UX design should aim to minimize that overload by keeping interfaces simple, intuitive, and not like dumping a ton of information on you all at once.
Right. So instead of giving you everything at once, it's about presenting information in a way that's easy to like digest.
Exactly. Think of it like a puzzle, right? If you dump all the pieces out at once, it's overwhelming. But if you get a few pieces at a time, it's much more manageable. Good UX can do that. Break down complex information into bite-sized pieces that don't, overload your brain.
It's like creating a more mentally sustainable digital environment.
I like that. Mentally sustainable. And it leads perfectly to the next strategy, promoting focused consumption.
Oh, focused consumption. Tell me more.
Okay, picture this. You're trying to read a long article online, but you've got notifications popping up, ads flashing, and maybe a video auto-playing. It's super
Oh,
distracting.
tell me about it. It's like
Well,
trying to read in the middle of Times Square.
exactly. And that's where focus modes come in. They're designed to minimize those distractions so you can actually engage with the content.
I've seen those in some apps. How do they actually help you focus?
They can do things like dimming or hiding parts of the interface, silencing notifications, even blocking websites entirely. They're like a little sanctuary for your mind, a space to actually think deeply without all the digital noise.
It's like a digital detox, but without having to completely disconnect.
Right. And then there are things like article modes that strip away everything except the text and images. A clean, distraction-free reading experience.
This is making me realize that good UX design isn't just about how things look or even how well they work. It's about respecting the user's mental energy and attention.
That's it. And I think that's a key takeaway from what we've talked about so far. It's not just about making digital experiences engaging. It's about making them mentally sustainable. Because our attention, it's a precious resource. It needs to be protected, not exploited.
So we've talked about mindful consumption and reducing that cognitive load. But what about encouraging people to actually step away from screens entirely? Is there a role for UX design there?
That's a great question, and it's actually something we're going to explore more when we look at the next part of the article. Stay tuned. It's funny you should ask about getting people to step away from their screens because it brings us to this other really interesting thing the article talks about, ethical behavioral design.
Oh, okay. Ethical behavioral design. What's that all about?
Well, you know how certain design techniques can be used to kind of nudge people towards certain behaviors?
Yeah, like those little tricks that almost make you feel like you have to click on something, or spend more time in an app.
Exactly. But what if those same techniques were used to encourage healthier digital habits?
Oh, I like that idea. Instead of nudging us to just scroll endlessly, what if we were nudged to, take breaks or engage with content in a more mindful way?
Now you're getting it. And that's what the article is suggesting. They talk about this idea of gamifying breaks,
Gamifying breaks?
Yeah. So imagine earning points or badges for stepping away from your screen.
Oh, that's clever. It could make taking a break something fun and rewarding, especially for people who are competitive.
Exactly. It kind of taps into that desire for achievement. Turns what might feel like, a chore, taking a break, into something you actually look forward to. And it's not just about gamification. The article also talks about giving people more control over their experience. Imagine being able to, customize how often you see notifications or adjust how fast content is delivered.
That would be amazing. Instead of getting bombarded with notifications every few minutes, you could set it so you only get them once an hour or at specific times. That would be so good for my stress levels.
Right. It's about putting the user back in control,
Yeah.
giving them the power to shape their own digital experience.
I got to say, I'm really digging this whole ethical behavioral design thing. It feels like it could really shift the focus from, manipulating users to make money to actually empowering them to develop healthier habits.
I think that's a super important distinction. It's about using what we know about human psychology, for good, to create digital experiences that actually support well-being instead of, taking away from it.
So we've talked about designing for mindful consumption, reducing that cognitive load, even using behavioral design to nudge users towards healthier habits. But what about encouraging people to actually disconnect, spend time offline? Can UX design play a role there too?
That's when things get really interesting. Remember, it's all about balance, right? Digital experiences can be great, but they shouldn't be our whole lives. This article actually suggests that UX design can help bridge that gap between the digital and physical worlds.
I'm curious how. It seems kind of counterintuitive for an app to encourage you to stop using it.
Well, imagine an app that, instead of always trying to grab your attention, actually suggested things you could do offline. What if your meditation app, instead of just reminding you to meditate, actually recommended going for a walk in nature?
Oh, that's so cool. It's like the app is actually encouraging you to live a more balanced life.
Yeah.
Not just spend more time staring at your screen.
Right. It could even take into account where you are, what you're interested in, even the weather, to give you personalized suggestions for offline activities.
Or what if your social media app, instead of showing you what everyone else is doing, encouraged you to, actually go out and do something yourself?
Love that. It could be hey, it's a beautiful day. Why not meet up with a friend for a picnic? Or there's a cool art exhibit happening downtown. Go check it out.
It's almost like these apps could become partners in our well-being, encouraging us to live fuller lives, both on and off our screens.
And it doesn't have to stop there. The article also talks about using interactive notifications to promote real-world engagement.
So instead of those attention-grabbing alerts that just pull you right back in,
Yeah.
you could get notifications that actually encourage you to, like, step away from your device.
Exactly. Like a simple, hey, you've been sitting for a while, why not get up and stretch? Or take a few minutes to just listen to the birds singing outside.
I think that could be really effective, especially if the timing was right. Like if I got that stretch notification right when I was starting to feel that afternoon slump, I'm much more likely to actually do it.
And then there are features like goal setting, that can help people be more intentional about their screen time, like setting daily limits for certain apps or tracking how much time you spend offline.
Wow, it seems like there's so many different ways that UX design can be used to encourage healthier digital habits.
There really are. And the cool thing is that we're already seeing some of these ideas being put into practice. Like a lot of apps have focus modes or screen time trackers now.
It feels like people are finally starting to take this whole digital well-being thing seriously.
I think so too. And I think this article really shows how important UX designers are in creating a more mindful and sustainable digital future. But at the end of the day, it comes down to each of us taking responsibility for our own well-being.
I totally agree. It's great that we're seeing these positive changes in design, but we can't just rely on apps and websites to, like, save us from ourselves.
Oh.
We have to be active participants in creating healthier relationships with our devices. It feels like this article has really given us, like, a whole new toolbox for designing, more mindful digital experiences.
It really has. But like you said, it's a toolbox. It's about using the right tool for the job.
Right. We can't just, like, slap a focus mode on every app and call it a day.
Exactly. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. We need to think carefully about, how and where we use these strategies.
Can you give us an example?
Sure. Let's take that idea of introducing friction to encourage breaks. In some cases, something simple like a continue scrolling button might work great.
Yeah. Sounds pretty straightforward. But I'm guessing there are times when it might be a bit more complicated.
Think about a healthcare app, one that reminds people to take their medication. Adding too much friction there could actually do more harm than good.
Oh, right. You wouldn't want someone to miss a dose because they got tired of clicking continue.
Exactly. So it's about finding that balance, encouraging mindful use without, getting in the way of essential functions. You really have to think about the user's needs, the app's purpose. Context matters.
So it's not just about, using these strategies, but using them in a way that makes sense for the situation. Are there any other ethical things to, keep in mind?
Oh, definitely. One that comes up a lot is, manipulation. We talked about how behavioral design can be used to encourage good habits.
Yeah, like gamifying breaks, giving personalized suggestions for things to do offline, but I can see how that same power could be, misused.
Think about apps that use rewards to keep people hooked, even when it's not really in their best interest.
Like giving you points or badges for spending way too much time on the app.
Right. Or using persuasive language to make taking a break seem less appealing. It's the dark side of design.
So we as designers really have to be aware of that potential for manipulation and make sure we're using these techniques in a responsible way.
It comes down to intention, really. Are we actually trying to help the user? Or are we just trying to keep them engaged no matter what?
Transparency and, actually putting the user's well-being first, those seem really important.
Like they say, with great power comes great responsibility. As UX designers, we have this power to shape people's experiences, and it's up to us to use it ethically, to do the right thing.
So what about us, the users? What can we do to, fight back against this brain rot? To have a healthier relationship with our devices?
That's the big question, isn't it? And while, UX design can help, it really comes down to us making the right choices.
We can't just expect apps and websites to, do all the work for us, right?
Right. It takes conscious effort. What small changes could you make in your own digital habits? Something to think about.
Maybe setting some boundaries around screen time, being more mindful about which apps we use, making an effort to spend more time offline.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance that works for you. And remember, it's not about giving up on technology completely. It's about using it in a way that makes our lives better, not worse.
Well, it's definitely encouraging to know that we have the tools and, the knowledge to create a more mindful digital world.
It starts with awareness. Next time you're using an app, just take a second to think about the design choices that are, influencing your behavior. Are they nudging you toward good habits or just keeping you hooked?
Ask yourself, what kind of digital experience do you actually want?
It's a question worth asking.
We hope this deep dive has given you some things to, chew on.
Ah.
Until next time, happy exploring. And stay mindful out there.